Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for not opening the door for my dad when he came to meet my son? I'm male 23, have been in no contact with my dad for years. I was loved and well cared for by my dad after my mom passed away, but at 14, I got sick and was diagnosed with a genetic disease. What my dad discovered afterwards wasn't expected. It turned out I wasn't his biological son. He had my 2 younger siblings' DNA tested and they were his. I wasn't aware, but dad treated me differently then. I was yelled at, called inappropriate names, and at 16, I was kicked out after he told me the truth and my college fund was taken away. I wasn't allowed to see my younger siblings. The last thing I heard from dad was, "You're not one of us." I was dealing with medical condition and having to work and live in a warehouse, till I moved in with my then girlfriend now fiancée. My brothers reached out to me and helped me heal a bit along with my aunt. Years later, and I was still struggling to process everything. I haven't spoken to dad ever since. Me and my fiancée got engaged, and a month ago we welcomed our first baby. Word was spread out by my brothers and my dad knew. Last week, I started getting calls from family telling me my dad wants to come see me and his grandson and talk things over. I was confused. I said no. He's not my son's grandfather. Only my brothers were allowed to visit. My brothers begged me to let him come. They came with my aunt and started arguing, saying my dad had done a lot for me and I can't deny he was my dad for 16 years. Saying of course he's my son's grandfather, and I shouldn't rob him of a relationship with his grandson by being selfish and irrational, and not thinking about my family's stability. My aunt called days ago to say my brothers and dad were at the door, and I needed to open up and let my dad meet his grandson. I was mad I refused to open the door for them all after my aunt insisted. I argued with her and my brothers, and told them dad isn't my son's grandfather, and he isn't welcome and should leave. My aunt called me cruel and said my dad went through a lot, and I should cut him a slack after he heard what I said and left. My brothers were pissed, but I didn't think he'd care since he stopped seeing me as his son a long time ago. I had to yell at them to leave but the conflict didn't stop there. I found people mentioning what I did on Facebook, saying I turned my father away after everything he did for me and stopped him from meeting his grandbaby, claiming my dad apologized, but I didn't respond to them. Was I the one at fault here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The fact that he abandoned you, literally a child at 16, because of something your mom did before you were even born really tells everything. I wouldn't blame you if you never saw or spoke to him again. Not the a-hole. He has 2 other sons who can give him grandchildren. One they do, he'll no longer care about you. If that post is still up, air out his dirty laundry. Including the part where you weren't considered his, and that your aunt is trying to force him back into your life. Not the a-hole. You aren't the one at fault. No one else gets to decide when you are ready to forgive him if you ever do. He was the one who made the decision that you weren't his son and he abandoned you. He doesn't just get to suddenly appear acting like the past never happened. Not the a-hole. If you're not one of us, then neither is your kid surely. He may have been the model parent for the first 14 years, but the last 2 in the aftermath of being kicked out while sick, having to fend for yourself at 16, isn't something that goes away because he was good before. You're not at fault for whatever happened with your mother and your creation, and it's absolutely unreasonable of him to hold it against you. You lost your mom, got sick and found out your dad isn't your real dad, got treated badly, got kicked out and lost your future, and none of that was your fault. The thing is, I can understand his hurt at finding out you're not his. What I can't understand is why nobody else can see what you've written here so clearly. Most importantly, you said no. For whatever reason, the parents get absolute say over who/when their kid is around people. They don't get to make demands on you or your baby. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to participate in family events? I am trying to gain some perspective here. I, 16 female, am the only child my parents have together. I have maternal half-sisters, both are older than me, from my mom's first marriage. They're 28 and 30 now I think, I'm not sure. They're not really part of my life. They have rejected me since I was born, and I have no idea what happened except for their dad died and my mom remarried. But what I do know is, my parents have never accepted that they don't want me. They drag me to events I haven't been invited to and I have been ignored. My half-sisters don't talk to me. They don't acknowledge I exist. When the younger one graduated from college, I would say over half of her friends were stunned to realize I was her half-sister as they had never heard of me before. That same trip, my parents left me in the apartment my half-sisters shared for them to watch me. And they left me there alone and never said anything. My parents were mad, but forgave them and still exposed me to them. Still brought me to places I wasn't wanted and stuff. I would hear them fighting, because I wasn't invited and they wanted me to be sent away. Now 28 is getting married, and I was not invited to the wedding. It's in June. I heard with my own ears that I was not invited, but my parents have told me I'm going. They bought me a dress and everything, and I told them I wasn't, that I didn't care. That I won't let them expose me to people who hate me and don't want me anymore. They told me I don't get a choice, but I told them to ground me if they want, but they won't get their way. They got my grandma involved and she told me I should respect my parents and do this for them. That I am behaving like a petulant child, something my parents told me, and I am being very unfair to them. I'm having doubts, so I wanted to ask. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It is completely unfair of your parents to do this. Might be worth messaging 28 and saying, look, I know you don't like me and don't want me around, and you know what? After all these years, the feeling is mutual. However, I am stuck living with my parents and they are forcing me to go. I don't get a choice, so if you really don't want me there, then please take it up with my parents, because I am powerless to change this until I am able to move out, after which you will never hear from me again. I have no way of messaging her. I'm blocked on the only social medias I have, Insta and Twitter. Do you have any contacts in common that could relay? Your half-sisters could be thinking that your parents are bringing you along because you are nagging them, especially if your parents given them that impression. Communication is one of the few ways you can break out of this, short of telling your parents that either they drop it, or you will have to cut them as well as half-sisters out once you can move out. I do not. I only know the place I visited that time and they don't live there now. I will try to steal my mom's phone and text her. Not the a-hole. They are turning a blind eye to the fact that your adult sisters are taking out their emotions on a minor who has done nothing to wrong them. I get that you are all her children, but she can't just ignore how they treat you, and pretend that you are being treated as part of the family. Oh, my parents can easily ignore it apparently. They just keep doing what they've been doing my whole life and expect me to keep going along with it. I meant morally. Obviously they are capable of it, but if they want any sort of true moral high ground, their behavior prevents them from getting it. Next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole for adopting only 3 of our 4 foster daughters? So my wife and I are raising 4 foster daughters aged 14 to 16. All of them have been with us from a young age. Some time ago, we had a family discussion about us adopting, and after giving it some thought, they all said they would like us to adopt them. Of course we were very happy and honored, so we put the process in motion. Now 3 of the 4 girls have either no biological family left, or their remaining family agreed to the adoption, but in the case of our youngest daughter, the family refused. They were against her being placed into foster care in the first place, yet none of them offered to take her in after her addicted mother abandoned her. They have played a fairly marginal role in her life so far. However, because they don't agree, the adoption can't happen and we have to respect that. The problem is my youngest daughter has developed abandonment issues after her mother abandoned her at 3 years old, and her going through 3 foster families before arriving with us. She had been in therapy for several years now, and although it has gotten a lot better, the fears are still present. After she heard she couldn't be adopted, she got very sad and anxious, and talked about how if she was the only one not adopted, she would be the only one who could still legally be removed from the family. We have been telling her that after almost a decade of her being with us, that chance is very small, but she is still afraid about it. Now, one of the reasons we wanted to at least propose adoption to our daughters, although the main one is of course that we love them to pieces, is that we would make clear to them that we are committed to being their parent their whole lives, not just till they are 18. But while the other 3 girls are very happy and looking forward to it, the whole affair seems to only have made the abandonment issues of the youngest worse, and we feel bad about that. We have been telling her a lot that if her biological family ever change their minds, we will adopt her in a heartbeat, and that it won't change how we treat her of her sisters, but she is still very sad. She isn't sure she wants to come to the adoption ceremony because I will cry for sure and I don't want to ruin it for them. We have offered to ceremonially adopt her at the same ceremony, but she refused because it isn't the same. To be fair, it isn't. She has never explicitly said she doesn't want us to go through with the adoption of the other 3, but we can see she is very sad about it and that it is feeding into her issues. On the other hand, we don't want to disappoint our other daughters. So Reddit, would we be the a-holes for adopting only 3 of our daughters? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Maybe set an adoption date for her on her 18th birthday? Make a huge deal about it. This is an excellent idea. Have all the paperwork ready, and make an appointment for the morning of her 18th birthday. Involve her in it every step of the way. I really hope that OP lives in a country allowing adult adoption. My country unfortunately isn't one of those, so this isn't always possible even if you want to. That being said, OP would have probably mentioned it in the post if that was the case. It sounds like you actually would adopt her if her biological parents weren't so cruel. You're not the a-hole, the parents are. It doesn't sound like parents even, but parents' family? You're all stuck in a tough place because your youngest cannot be adopted. It sounds like you are supporting her as much as possible through this on top of being caring parents for all of them. However, it wouldn't be fair on your other daughters to not adopt them and give them the security that adoption provides. No a-holes here, because I don't think the kids are a-hole. If you can do adult adoption, maybe do that when the youngest is old enough? Or have some other sort of ceremony? Well, I have to say not the a-hole, but I think you should fight for the fourth daughter. You had her for 10 years, I think it's terrible that her bio family wouldn't give her the chance of adoption. Not sure where you live, but get a lawyer and I guarantee the court will be on your side. Update: first of all, thanks to everyone who has compassionately replied to this post. There are actual professionals involved in this, don't worry, but it was still refreshing and helpful to see things from a different point of view. Since I have posted this, a couple of things have happened. 1. We have had a family discussion with me, my wife and all 4 of the girls about this unfortunate situation, and talked about everyone's feelings about it. There were tears and laughs, but in the end it was a relief to us all. With unanimous decision we decided to adopt the 3 eldest, but to keep the adoption ceremonies to a legal minimum and instead do something fun with the whole family to celebrate the occasion. Second, we have looked into a couple of things. Previously we had understood from our contact with the social worker who helps us with the adoption process, that when a biological family objects so strongly to the adoption as they have with our youngest daughter, a court case would be basically useless, because the judge almost always sides with them. However, we have contacted a lawyer and it seems she was a bit too pessimistic about that. We are exploring our legal possibilities and letting our little girl know we will fight for her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for firing my brother as my dog walker after having to pay a lot for the vet because of his lie? My brother, 24 male, has been out of work for a while and has been looking to make any extra cash. I, 27 male, decided to start paying him to walk my dog in the mornings and evening. Not much, but just so he has something. Didn't need him to because I was already doing that myself, but still been busy with work, so at least him doing it meant I wouldn't have to get up super early to walk Bella, my dog, or take her out really late once I'm done for the day. I didn't notice this until a couple of weeks after he started walking Bella. She has her own pee pad in my apartment where she does her business. Sometimes she'll poop during our walks and I clean up after her. When my brother started walking her, I gave him the bags to use in case she wet. A few days went by, and I noticed Bella hasn't used her pee pad to go number 2 at all. So I asked my brother if she's going during their walks. He told me she wasn't. I noticed it too when they'd get back and he hasn't used the bags. I asked him a few times if he's sure, and he said yeah. So that scared me because obviously there was a problem if she hasn't pooped in days. I took her to the vet, they did a physical, blood work to check if she was dehydrated or anything else. Literally nothing was wrong. So then the vet suggested we do an abdominal ultrasound to see if they could figure out what's going on. That stuff wasn't cheap at all. So still haven't gotten the results yet, and earlier I'm at home, my brother stops by to take her out. Notices how I'm acting, so he asks what's wrong. I told him everything. That I'm freaked out over what's wrong with Bella because they've done these tests and they don't know what's up. Finally, he freaking tells me he's been lying about the whole thing. Bella does go, but he just didn't want to pick up the poop. He didn't tell me because he knew I'd get mad since they only walk around this block, which means he's been letting her go on the neighbors' yards and not picking it up. Man, I literally lost it. Like actually yelled at him for making me worry about my dog, and that I spent so much money for nothing. I essentially fired him. Didn't say nothing about him paying me back because knowing him, I knew he won't. My brother begged me to give him a chance, and he didn't know it was gonna be a big deal. He texted me multiple times that he's sorry. And he really needs this help. Since he's staying at my parents', of course he told them, so now they're on his side too. To be a good brother and give him a chance for making a stupid mistake. My brother's mad I won't help him, I'm still mad about the whole thing, so I don't know if I'm being too harsh because of my emotions or if I'm in the right here. Of course not the a-hole. He, 1. Lied. That's already a-hole behavior, Lying to someone helping you out. 2. Didn't pick up the dog's poop. Such an a-hole move. 3. Caused you to pay all that money and worry, no offer to make it up or whatsoever. 4. Most likely lied to your parents, or at least changed the story to his favor. Otherwise I doubt they would side with him. 5. His only worry now is the money he wants to make. Seriously, screw him. Don't give him the job back, he shouldn't be trusted with the dog. Besides, it was nice of you to give it to him in the first place, there is no obligation. Don't let them guilt you. Imagine this was a random employee. You would not consider hiring them. Don't do it because he's family or struggling. And he was only walking her around 1 block. He was lousy dog walker on top of everything else. OP, not the a-hole. Plus, neighbors probably know the dog. I know, I learned dogs before people lol, and might hold it against OP because brother left poo in their yard. Not the a-hole. He better pay you back. I know my brother, he won't. Tell him he can have another chance, and once he has done enough walks that on what you paid him before, he has paid the vet bill back, he can get paid again. I have this suspicion he won't agree to this as it will be a lot of unpaid work for him. I wouldn't trust him to pick up after my dog during their walks knowing now that he lies about it. Not the a-hole at all. Maybe if your parents are feeling so supportive of his laziness, they can pay you back for the vet bills. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.